Welcome to the 10-12, the podcast that covers all 10 teams in the Big 12 Conference, plus BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. We're the flagship show of the 10-12 network. Thank you for joining us for a special YouTube edition of the show. With everything that happened this weekend for West Virginia, it seemed like a good idea to do something about this early in the week before the episode comes out on Thursday. So join me today to kind of break down everything that's going on, what we know now, what we're paying attention to, what could be coming over the next few weeks. Ethan Bock, who covers college basketball for the Portal Report, as well as West Virginia Sports Now. Ethan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Philip. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I wish that your first appearance here on the podcast was under better situation, better circumstances, but it kind of is what it is. Every podcast is someone's first, so we're just kind of lay the groundwork. As I think, obviously, West Virginia fans are very familiar with what's going on. I think most Big 12 fans are, but everyone may not know all the details. So I'm trying to get through some of this as best I can. Forgive me for not looking at the camera while I do this. I have all my notes on my phone because it's the only way to type notes out, and I'm not going to email it myself. Okay, so obviously a somber situation going on in Morgantown. Bob Huggins has resigned his post as the head coach of the West Virginia men's basketball program as of Saturday after being arrested on Friday night for a DUI. The details of this arrest and his state were alarming and shocking and awful. Huggins had a blood alcohol level of 0.210, which is nearly 3 times the legal limit. He was found blocking traffic when police found him with a shredded tire on his school-issued SUV. Empty beer cans and bottles were found in trash bags on the passenger side floor and in the trunk of his vehicle. He was arrested in Pittsburgh, believed he had been in Columbus, and could not explain where he had been the previous 7 hours since visiting a Burger King in Washington, Pennsylvania, which is 28 miles southwest of where he was arrested. There's a lot more details about this. Everybody wants to go read it. It really only gets worse from there. At some point, the body cam and dash cam footage will come out about this, and that's going to be really hard to watch. It's just going to make the story even realer and worse. At this point, I would say the fact that no one was injured, let alone killed, him or anyone else, is a pure act of God. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. If he doesn't know where he was or what he was doing for 7 hours while in that car. Huggins released the decision for Huggins to resign or I guess be removed from his position. It's 2 sides of the same coin in this situation. I think was inevitable. Obviously came very quickly. Huggins released a statement on Saturday in regards to the resignation. Quote, "My recent actions do not represent the values of the university or the leadership expected in this role. I have always tried to represent our university with honor. I have let you all and myself down. I am solely responsible for my conduct and sincerely apologize to the university community, particularly to the student athletes, coaches, and staff in our program. I must do better, and I plan to spend the next few months focused on my health and my family so that I can be the person they deserve." This incident, of course, comes not long after Bob Huggins went on a Cincinnati radio station and made some homophobic and disparaging comments about gays and Catholics. Huggins, of course, also had a DUI while he was the head coach at Cincinnati, which led to his eventual resignation there. A lot of feelings right now, a lot going on in Morgantown. Let's just start with this, Ethan. Where are we at? Where are the state of things as of today?
As of today on Monday afternoon, now the program's looking for a new head coach. Report came out that they're going to conduct a national search, but they're also considering Huggins' assistance as an internal promotion. So it's sad. It's sad that this is the way that Bob Huggins is going out. A legendary coach like him should be going out on his own terms, but once again, another bonehead decision on his part at this offseason costs him another job in his career. So it's unfortunate to see, and now his assistants and his players that he brought in through the transfer portal and the players that returned from last season, they're all in a limbo at this point.
I mean, look, it's felt since the comments that he made on the Cincinnati radio station like this might be the last year in Morgantown for Huggins. That Ren Baker, athletic director there at West Virginia, was basically going to have a year to get all of his ducks in a row and find a replacement. that this was going to be his swan song season. Instead, a Hall of Fame coach leaves in disgrace, not on his own watch, not on his own accord. And I mean, the mess that is left behind is terrible. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ethan, most assistants coaches, let's just start here, are on a year-to-year contract that renews in July, essentially. So now, first off, you have all of these assistant coaches who could very well now be without a job. And it's not like places are hiring assistants at a D1 level or even a period in the middle of the summer. So you have assistants who are put in a terrible position. You have players on this roster who now have a 30-day window for the ability to transfer out if they want to do so, but are going to have to find a home somewhere else where rosters are already getting filled up and spots are being filled quickly. So they have to make a very difficult decision of their own. You've got an athletic department that now has to make a decision from a coaching standpoint about the future at one of the most difficult times of the year to hire, because right now, I would say this, multiple possibilities have been eliminated just because we're talking about this on June 19th. And a decision I would expect would come on this within the next couple of weeks. This is not a decision that can drag out into even mid-July. Like by July 4th holiday weekend, you'd like to be saying like, hey, we'll be announcing a new head coach on Monday. That's got to be the timeline. And so there's going to be coaches who would have loved to jump at this opportunity, but because of how late this is in the cycle, even though this is a decision that they'll make for the long term, not for 1 year, there are going to be coaches who go, I don't want to do this right now. I don't think the timing of this is appropriate. So you've already knocked off possible candidates. This is a tough situation for everyone involved. From the player standpoint, obviously they've had a lot of players come in for the transfer portal. That was what this entire roster was building for. It felt like a 1 year final go for Bob Huggins at West Virginia. Some of these guys and these big names are all bring in like Kirk Carissa from Arizona. I mean, from have you heard anything from rumblings about the players and kind of what the mindset for them is at this point, or is this still just kind of trying to settle in for them, this news?
Yeah, an anxious weekend for the players. I know that for sure. Heard that they want an internal hire or promotion. That would be the most ideal. They would definitely be evaluating their options of entering the portal or staying at West Virginia if the university decides to hire a coach from the outside. So it's definitely an odd situation. And then on top of that, some of these guys are going to need waivers still. Like Raekwon Battle is going to need a waiver because he's transferred multiple times. And he's not technically a graduate transfer. So, but like a Kirk Creesha or Jesse Edwards, who've only transferred once, they'll be able to leave and be eligible right away. So it's a tough situation for both the players and the university, but I feel like they need to make a decision that supports the short term for next year as well as the long term, because I mean, you have a top 25, top 30 team in the country going into the preseason, and with Huggins getting a DUI and having to resign, it's not ideal for any party. And now, like I said earlier, everybody in the program's in a limbo. But players want an assistant promoted, as opposed to going out and just hiring somebody else, because that's not who they committed to when they committed to West Virginia. They committed to this coaching staff.
In that line of that, you mentioned on Twitter, you believe that the players should have a say in this decision. Obviously, that's something that's going to give West Virginia fans some PTSD. The last time players had a say in a hiring, it didn't go great. West Virginia's decision to do a national search and make what feels like a long-term decision. They haven't named an interim. It doesn't feel like they're going to. It feels like they want to hire the next head coach for West Virginia, not a stopgap. It feels like a long-term plan. And it does seem like the athletic department, Ren Baker, is less focused on what happens this year and more for the long term. Do you think that's the right decision that West Virginia is making?
No. I think they're rushing. You have to rush into the hire. You have to make this hire somewhat quickly, because just off of the possibility of the players entering the portal, and if you can't, I don't think you're going to be able to convince many coaches in the country to leave their current school after they've already finalized a roster. So you're gonna have to kind of rush this in a way, but at the same time, I don't understand why West Virginia can't wait 8, 9 months, keep Huggins assistants, hire an interim, and just keep this roster together, have a good year, and then end the Huggins era at the end of the year, and then conduct an entire national search, which you would probably have stronger candidates at the time. Um, because I think more coaches will be interested in taking that job. West Virginia is a top 25 job in the country, so I don't see the point in rushing to hire somebody in June while risking losing a talented roster. I think it's a win-win if you keep the guys, if you can keep the players and keep the coaches that got the players here, and at the same time, at the end of the year, conduct a search and then go find that long-term hire that they can have for as long as they had Huggins for.
I didn't think we have seen enough evidence in the transfer portal era, and I think Jerome Tang at Kansas State this past season is a perfect in-conference example that if you get the right guy, you'll be able to turn things around quickly. And so, to your point on waiting, as I said, you're limiting your options by doing this now and in a hurry, as opposed to, and I'm sure Ren's already got a list that he's already started putting together after the incident on the Cincinnati radio station. So I don't know why you would rush it. I'm very torn for West Virginia fans. Like, you've been very excited about this season, and I don't think you should jeopardize the long term for one season. But I do think, like, this is a different era in college athletics. You can turn things around more quickly if you get the right hire, and you're putting more pressure on yourself to knock this hire out of the park as opposed to making a long-term hire and then in 3 years having to make this hire again because you had to rush the decision and get somebody in. So I can see both sides of the situation. I think I would lean towards yours a little bit. I mean, I look at Baylor football. They had to bring in Jim Grobe for a year, and it was whatever. And then they got the right hire, and long term it worked out. And so I do think it's interesting that they are going to do a national search. It makes me think Ren's got his list already together. Like I said, has been working on this for a little while. So that will be a story that we will continue to track. I really don't think this is a search that will last long. I would be shocked if we're sitting here in 3 weeks and we don't have a new head coach for West Virginia basketball. And if they don't have one, that is very concerning that maybe they are struggling to find the right person as opposed to just making a quick internal decision. Ethan, you've been covering West Virginia for a little while now. I mean, Bob Huggins is a legend. The man's in the College Hall of Fame. He was the active wins leader for a little while, ever since Coach K retired. The man has built a legacy that is going to be hard to separate from this and how it ended and what he did as the head coach at West Virginia. Just in your opinion, like, and it's hard today because the emotions are still so high. But how do you think West Virginia fans will be able to view the Bob Huggins era at West Virginia?
I think it's going to be kind of similar to Don Nayland's time or Rich Rod's time, where it's just reminiscing. It's looking back and just missing Hugs. And I think it's not just because he was a good coach and he got wins. He was a West Virginia guy, Morgantown native, blue collar, hard worker. He's very genuine. He didn't coach basketball for money. He coached basketball because he liked the sport. He liked being a father figure to the guys. So West Virginia fans are gonna miss that. I'd miss that era of 16 years of winning basketball and competitive basketball. Like I said earlier, it's sad that's the way Hugs is going out, and we're almost turning a leaf on a whole era of coaches. I feel like we all kind of grew up on, like Coach K, Roy Williams, Jay Wright, Jim Boeheim. List goes on. It seems like a lot of the guys are just out of the game now within the last 2 years, and you're pretty much left with Izzo, Coach Cal, and Bill Self at this point.
Yeah, it does feel like a true changing of the guard. It felt that obviously with Coach K and retiring, but with Bob now gone, it really does feel like we're in a very new era of college basketball. I want to kind of end on this because I don't want to sit here and dwell too much on what happened Friday night. I think it's good to look forward. Um, Let me say this as an Oklahoma State fan. It's obviously a Big 12 podcast. I'm a Big 12 fan, but I am an Oklahoma State fan at heart. And let me say as that, I understand what West Virginia fans are going through right now. I understand what it's like to see your legendary head coach's career come to an untimely, an unexpected end because of a DUI situation. I feel for you. I do. It sucks. It's difficult to deal with some very mixed emotions. It's hard to know that the right decision was made on behalf of West Virginia, and still hate that decision had to be made in the very first place. I understand what it's like to be angry and disappointed and frustrated, to see someone that you had so much respect and love and appreciation for make such an completely abhorrent decision that jeopardized the lives of so many different people, not just in the action that you undertook, but in the following days and what was implicated. The thing that we all have to do right now, I think, is at best, and once we're all ready, is to have grace. It's obvious Bob Huggins needs real help, and he mentioned that in his apology after what happened on the Cincinnati radio station. I mean, I'm not going to sit. There have been thoughts and rumors about what led to that occurrence, him being at a golf tournament and whether or not alcohol impacted his decision to make those comments on a radio station. This is obviously something that, having a DUI in the past, that alcohol is an issue for Coach Huggins. And so he needs to take time and deal with things. And I hope that he does. These actions the last few months, the ones we're seeing, because as always, like, things get bad before they bubble to the surface. They do. And so these are obviously not the actions of a healthy and unburdened man. I hope that this weekend was the lowest point for the university, for the athletic department, for the players, for the assistants, for the fans, and for Bob Huggins, and that every second, every day moving forward is a step in the right direction for everybody involved, including and especially Coach Huggins. That is a terrible situation to find yourself in, and I hope that he is able to come out on the other side better, and better for everyone because of this. I hate wording it that way, but the only thing you can do is try and heal it and see what kind of positive impact you can do after doing so.
Yeah, I mean, Philip, you said it right. Coach Huggins needs help. I mean, reading that report, it's scary. Like you said, it's lucky he didn't injure anybody or kill anybody or God knows what, but he needs to take a step back from the game, I think, obviously, and focus on his health for a little bit, and just try to have an overall, just create a better environment in his life. And he still has time. He still has time to fix himself and improve his health. So I don't think anybody out there is not wishing him the best. He needs help, and hopefully he can overcome his demons.
Ethan, I appreciate your time today, man. Again, I look forward to having you on the show again under better circumstances. When West Virginia makes a decision, I'd love to have you come on and share your thoughts about that. For everything you do covering West Virginia and college basketball and the transfer portal, where can everybody find all of your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter mostly at Ethan Bock, BOCK with an underscore. You'll see pretty much West Virginia basketball coverage, as well as just trying to manage the transfer portal, because that can get a little overwhelming, but we try our best.
That is an understatement when describing the transfer portal. Ethan, again, thank you so much, man. Everybody, the next episode of the Tinfoil Podcast will be out on Thursday. We will talk to you then.